Hey traders, welcome to this weekend's Forex trade planning session, the show where we look ahead at the opportunities that could be setting up in the Forex markets. And boy, do we have some things to look at this week. So last week was one of the more challenging weeks in the market. There were a number of pairs that were pulling back. There wasn't trend changes as such, but obviously you do get some of that price acceptance. You've got to get the market taking profits and things like that. And that's what we saw in a number of the pairs. Although having said that, there still were some great opportunities to bank some profits. So I hope you managed to take full advantage of that. Now, looking ahead to this week, we have a few opportunities in the currency pairs, and the majority of the ones I'm actually looking at are actually in the indices. But whilst before we get into it, we do need to remember that there are a few things on the horizon this week. So first of all, on Monday, it's going to be a bank holiday in the UK. So that's going to remove one of the trading centres and potentially some of the liquidity and hence the volatility because of the Queen's funeral. And then in next week, we also have the Bank of Japan getting together, and there's been a lot of talk of them intervening in the markets. Now, when we talk about central bank intervention, it's for those of you that are new to this, it may seem really, really scary. It may seem like it's going to completely change the tide of the markets. And whilst it will cause some short-term volatility, there's no doubt about that. So if you're trading some of the yen pairs, and there's one or two that we're going to look at today, we'll probably want to trade it with a smaller position size leading up to the point where they do potentially intervene in the markets. But what I've experienced in the past over the 20 years of trading is that unless it's sort of like a concerted effort with all of the other central banks, if it's something that the BOJ, the Bank of Japan, decide or try to do on their own, it will be short-lived and the traders will test the Bank of Japan's resolve. So what that means is that they're at the moment saying that the yen is too strong, all right, or too weak rather. So what they're going to do is look to buy, and what you'll then see is you'll see a number of the yen pairs with, like the euro yen, dollar yen, etc. They will drop. That may seem a little bit strange to some of you because you'll think, oh, well, if it's particularly weak, then obviously it's going to rise. But remember that the yen, for the most part, is the quote currency in the currency pair, not the base currency. So if you're going to see yen strength, if you see the Bank of Japan come in and start buying the yen to put some support under it, then what you'll actually see in the currency pairs that you're trading is that you'll see them drop off a little bit. But from my personal perspective and from what I've seen in my experience, they're just sort of good opportunities to get back into the market and to buy at better prices. So that's something that you want to keep an eye on. Although having said that, we don't have that many that we're looking at this week. Over the past few weeks, we've been trading yen more aggressively, but this week, as I said, I'm seeing some opportunities out there, some in other currency pairs, but there's actually a number in the indices that I like the look of. So that being said, let's jump over to the charts and let's go through the opportunities that are setting up this week. We'll start off with the Aussie CAD. Now, the Aussie CAD here, as we can see on the daily chart, has been moving down. We've been talking about this for a little while. It keeps threatening to break down, then it doesn't. What we have going for us now, though, is we've got this nice little trend line in here. I'm going to wait for the 0.8816 level to be broken. Once that's broken, then I'm going to be looking to get in there and become a seller. So I think the Aussie CAD does go lower. It's just a question of when. What we're going to do here is wait for the trend line to be broken, wait for the low to be broken. And once that happens, then we can get involved there and become sellers. Now, of course, when we're looking at any Australian dollar pair or any pair, you need to look at the major in there. And obviously this is the Aussie dollar. So if we're looking to sell the Aussie CAD, we need to keep an eye on the Aussie dollar as well. It just so happens that the Aussie dollar is actually also setting up. So we had a bit of a signal last week. It didn't quite get below the trend line here, but it was a signal all the same on this bearish momentum candle there. What I will be waiting for is more of a concerted effort by the sellers to get below this level, to get below support at 0.6677. And once we get below that level, if we get a nice bearish momentum candle, I would look to become a seller in this market as well. The euro dollar is another one that I have in here that I'm looking for it to sell off. We got a nice big momentum candle over here on the 13th of September. If we then jump across to something like the 4-hour charts, all right, you might be able to get a sort of like a better or shorter term opportunity here. I thought there was an opportunity earlier on in the week. I actually got stopped out of this trade here. So I made an attempt to sell through the lows at 0.9955. That didn't quite work out. The market then rallied and took me out at my stop, which was just above this consolidation area over here. But now we have this trend line in place, and I think that if we do get below the lows at 0.9944, then that will be another good opportunity to sell. So I'll just jump straight back into the market there if we get below this level. The pound Aussie is another opportunity that we're looking at. Again, it's something that we'll probably have to play from the 4-hour perspective, at least initially, because we have a little bit of a trend line could be forming in here. It's not there just yet, but if we get a little bit of a bounce here, going into the Asian trading session, and then obviously going into Monday, as there's going to be a bank holiday here in the UK, so perhaps the pound doesn't get traded that much. We'll get a little bit of consolidation, and then once we get the breakthrough there, that could be the opportunity to start selling pound Aussie. It's still weighted to the downside, but as you can see here on the daily, it has gone, a long way this year. So it has sold off a long way, and a pullback is something that isn't going to be unusual. But we'll just look at those rallies as an opportunity to sell into it. The pound CAD is similar. The only difference with the pound CAD to the pound Aussie is that the trend line and the support level is actually defined. So if we just bring this in over here, we can see that we do have a defined level of support via the trend line here. The market is pulling back. If we get a break through the low at 1.5083, that will represent a great opportunity to get short in the market. Again, just need to pay attention to the fact that this year the market has sold off a lot. So we're looking at sort of 2,000 pips over here. It's sold off in the space of the last 4 or 5 months. So there will be a point in time when the sellers of the pound or the buyers of the Canadian dollar will actually take some profits. They'll book some profits. So if we do see a bit of a pullback, it's not anything really to be worried about. It will be an opportunity, or it should be an opportunity to sell into the markets. Obviously, when we get the pullback, we'll need to look at the sort of like the factors surrounding that pullback. What's caused it? Is it just a technical bit of profit taking, or is it something a little bit more sinister? And hence, could we then be looking at a bit of a trend change? But at the moment, I think that really we need to be sellers in this market when we get the opportunity. Now, we've got the New Zealand yen over here. So looking at this here, there isn't an opportunity yet. Okay, but I do think that this, out of all of the yen pairs, could represent one of the best opportunities, because what we have here is that we've had the market try to break out of this high over here. Then we had the Bank of Japan coming in last week and rate checking the yen, which essentially means they're calling around the various banks and they're trying to get to find out what the yen rate is, and that's sort of like a precursor to intervention. It's them preparing for it. And that's what caused this sell-off here. So I think once we get the intervention, once the markets have sort of consumed that and they've sort of shaken it off, then we will get an opportunity to buy. And I think that there isn't a setup here yet, but I think buying the New Zealand yen could be a good opportunity to play. Although having said that, all of the yen pairs, once we've had that intervention, will represent good value for money. Then if we go across to the indices, so the indices as a whole, they're all printing fairly similar patterns in that we had the big sell-off, we then had a bit of a rally, a bit of a recovery, and now they're looking like they're going to break down. We've got the Aussie over here, so the Aussie index looks like it's going to break through. It's at the support level of 6715.4. I think that if we do get the breakthrough this level, then we really need to take advantage of that, because I can see this coming down towards the lows. Not that we need to hold it down to the lows, by the way, because we just play the momentum. We only need 1 or 2 bars and we'll be able to take our profits. But it's a very similar sort of situation across the board. So you've got the same here with the S&P. Oops, let's put that in there. So we've got the S&P over here breaking through the trend line, looking like it's really going to go lower. So I want to take advantage of that. We've got the Russell over here, same thing. I won't put in the trend line, but essentially it's the same setup. We've got the FTSE as well, which looks like it's breaking down. You can see it better from a 4-hour chart on the FTSE. So it's a little bit shorter term, but it is definitely there. And then we've got the DAX, which is a similar sort of pattern. And we've got the NASDAQ. So again, that's a similar pattern there. So all of these here, I'm just looking for momentum to the downside going into next week. And I'm going to try and ride that wave, jump onto that train and take advantage of it. Because when the indices do sell off, they sell off quite quickly. I then spotted a few opportunities in some of the commodities. We've got copper over here, which funnily enough looks very, very similar to some of the indices, but you can see that we've got a nice pattern forming over here. And I think that if we break below this trend line and we break certainly below 3.3612, then that could open up the floodgates and we can see copper go down towards the lows. That's 3.1638. And then the final one is natural gas. So in the longer term perspective, we can see that it's rallying. And the reason for that is what's going on in Ukraine and Russia and things like that. But one of the things I do like is if we look at this here on the 4-hour charts, it does look like it's breaking down. And I think that if we can crack this support here, we may see prices tail off a little bit, at least temporarily. I don't think that we're going to see a big trend change because of what's going on, you know, as I said, with the war in Ukraine at the moment. So I think that that's going to support the price of natural gas for the moment. But in the short term, we might get a tactical opportunity to get below here. And remember, the way that we trade, we're not placing our stops all the way above the resistance level, the swing levels over here. We're going to keep it quite close behind a momentum bar, which allows us to have a more sort of aggressive profit target and a more aggressive stop loss. Okay, so that wraps it up for this week. A little bit of a different one this week. So it wasn't just the currencies. There are other opportunities that we can take advantage of out there. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you haven't already subscribed, and there are a number of you, you may think that you're subscribed, but if you look below the video here, you'll see that you haven't hit that subscribe button. So if you could hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so that you get a notification, that would be very much appreciated. It just tells me that you guys are watching these videos, that you're enjoying the videos, and then obviously I'll make more of them. Okay, so with that being said, thank you so much for watching, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the next video. Take care now.